Discover the amazing journey of Ginger's Kite, a heartwarming tale of love that flew again. In a small Midwestern town where laughter spills like sunshine on open fields, 24-year-old Ginger Thompson stood at the crossroads of despair and hope. Her auburn hair danced wildly in the summer breeze, almost echoing her spirited soul. This was the town where kites soared high, tethered by stories of love and perseverance, much like Ginger herself, raised by a single mother who imbued resilience in her veins. With the annual Kite Festival approaching, Ginger's heart fluttered in anticipation. Yet shadows loomed like dark clouds on the horizon, whispering fears that this cherished tradition might vanish. The Kite Festival had always been a magical gathering, a sweet reminder of simpler times where neighbors shared smiles and stories, bonding over brightly colored kites that flew high against endless blue skies. But this year, the whispers of budget cuts and fading enthusiasm clung to the air like a storm about to break. Ginger felt the weight of it all, the impending loss of not just the festival, but the very essence of her community, the laughter of children, the gentle camaraderie among neighbors. With a heavy heart, she rummaged through her late father's belongings, a humble war veteran who fought valiantly for the American dream. In the dim light, her fingers brushed against a dusty vintage kite. Its faded colors stirred memories of her boyhood dreams, of flights untethered and laughter uncontained. With renewed resolution, Ginger stood tall, ready to ignite passion back into the hearts of her neighbors. "What if we built kites together?" she proposed, her voice ringing with hope. A kite-building contest. At first, excitement bubbled, but soon skepticism took root. Old wounds surfaced, revealing divides that had silently festered among the townsfolk. How could this young woman, glowing with ambition, mend hearts riddled with bias? Hope flickered like a candle caught in the wind. Frustration buzzed in the air, but deep down, she believed in the goodness of her community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. A wise elder took Ginger under her wing, teaching her the importance of empathy and connection that transcends prejudice. Slowly, as she rallied support, the festival spirit flickered back to life, sparking laughter and unity among the doubts. Just as everything began to align, a day of reckoning approached. A fierce storm brewed overhead, mirroring the tension brewing in the town. Each gust of wind seemed to amplify their discord. As festival day dawned, Ginger's heart raced with anxious anticipation. The sky darkened, ominously watching over her community. And then a heart-wrenching incident unfolded right there in the square, shattering the tenuous bonds she worked so hard to restore. Her dreams felt fragile, crushed under the weight of reality. Would the townsfolk band together and let their kites fly, weaving their stories of love and resilience on the breeze? Or would the invisible lines that divided them bring them crashing down? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow, Ginger stood with her heart pounding, desperate to uncover the understanding that could bring their fractured spirits back together. The fate of the festival and her community hung in the balance, begging for salvation. The morning of the festival opened like a bruised peach, colors mingling into an uneasy gray. The sky felt too low, too heavy, as if it mourned the loss of laughter that had once filled this town like music. Ginger stared out from her porch, her heart thumping fiercely, each beat a reminder of the tentative connections she had forged in recent weeks. She remembered the late-night brainstorming sessions with neighbors, how their laughter had once rung like wind chimes under a sunny afternoon sky. But today was different. The whispered fears of cancellation hung thick in the air. Heads downcast, people shuffled through the town square, the usual buzz replaced with murmurs and sidelong glances. She desperately wished to summon their enthusiasm, but doubt clouded her own spirit. The storm brewing in the distance echoed a looming dread. Would they abandon her now, just as they had begun to rekindle their sense of belonging? With determination flaring in her chest, she clutched the vintage kite her father had left behind. The faded colors seemed to beckon like an old friend whispering encouragement. Stepping into the square, she lifted the kite high above her head. The gesture caught the attention of a small cluster gathering at the edge. Ginger's emotions swelled as she called out, "This kite represents our stories, our hopes. Let's not let them fall." A ripple of silence followed, eyes wide, hearts uncertain. Then one brave child stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with the remnants of inspiration. "Can I help you make one?" she asked, her small voice cutting through the tension. That moment was a spark, tiny but fierce. Ginger grinned, gesturing for the girl to come closer. Soon the child was joined by another, and then another. Was it possible they could still come together? Ginger knelt beside them, sharing the vision of their community. The stakes felt impossibly high. Just then Mrs. Wilkins, an elder who had been the heart of the town's gatherings, approached, her gaze softening the edges of skepticism.
"I believe in this," she said, stepping forward with a tentative smile. And in that instant, the world felt just a bit lighter. The children dove into the task, their laughter erupting like little fireworks. Neighbors began to gather, inching closer, reconnecting with the shared goal. Ginger caught glimpses of old bonds being rekindled, Mr. Harris laughing at a joke, Mrs. Jenkins expressing her inner artist with a splash of yellow paint. But shadows still loomed. Not everyone was convinced. Nearby, a group of adults whispered, their faces drawn tight with skepticism. Ginger's heart sank for a moment as doubt crept back in. What if they just won't let it happen, she thought. As the air buzzed with creativity, the distant rumble of thunder reminded them that the storm had not yet passed. For a heartbeat, it felt like the festival was teetering on a cliff. But in that chaos, Ginger felt a shift, a warmth spread through her, igniting hope anew. "Let this be our reign of strength," she called out, her voice rising against the growing storm. "No storm can ground us if we lift each other up." But just as clouds began to part with soft light filtering through, a voice sliced through the laughter. "And what if your dreams fall just like that kite?" A familiar face emerged from the crowd, casting doubt in her direction. The words hung heavy as she stared into the challenging gaze of a townsman hardened by years of rivalry. Ginger felt a chill in her bones. Would they really let their differences overshadow the hope she'd ignited? The answer would resonate in the winds that tangled through the kites and dreams. And in that critical moment, every heart in the square hung in uncertainty. What would it take to make them see? Could one kite, one shared vision, really hold the power to mend the fractures in their community? With the storm rising again, Ginger prepared to find out how far she would go for the love of her town. The answer awaited in the winds above. The words weighed on Ginger like a lead blanket. Her heart raced, the jovial laughter of children feeling miles away, while doubt crept in, cold and insistent. She met the challenging gaze of the townsman. His skepticism felt as real and sharp as the wind biting at her cheeks. "Just like that kite? You mean it's fragile? That it could be swept away?" she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Around her, the air shifted. Others were listening, eyes flickering with uncertainty. But as the thunder growled again, Ginger remembered the fire in those children's eyes, the vibrant colors they had chosen. "We all might falter, but look how far we've had to come. This kite isn't just for me. It's for us, our stories, our resilience. We can create something beautiful, even amidst the chaos." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some started to nod. Was it working? She couldn't focus on the man's taunts. She had no time for that. She needed to rally her people, pull them back from the brink of despair. "Together, we can create our own sky. This kite will dance above our doubts." Her voice soared over the whispers, the anticipation building around her. The children, emboldened, picked up fabric scraps and made their tiny masterpieces with determination, fingers giggling with purpose. Suddenly, another voice chimed in. This time it was Mrs. Wilkins. "We've weathered storms before. Just look at how many kites we've lost over the years, yet we always find a way to rebuild." More nods spread among the crowd, like wildflowers blooming through cracked pavement. But just as hope reignited, tension simmered beneath the surface. "Rebuild? How?" A younger man stepped forward, arms crossed. "What if we just lose everything again?
We've been let down too many times." Ginger's heart sank again. The doubt wasn't just fading, it felt like a tidal wave. Just as she began to lose her footing, the little girl who had first joined her tugged gently at her sleeve. "We make it together, right? If we help each other, it can't fall." The innocence of those words struck Ginger to the core. She knelt down to the child, her heart swelling. Yes, this was exactly the spirit she needed to harness. Perhaps the simple, pure belief of a child could guide them through. "Yes, we build together," Ginger cried, standing taller now. Around her, more people began to move, gathering together, forming small groups. Each stitch of fabric became a thread weaving back together their community. They were all part of this tapestry. Nobody had to stand alone. The storm rumbled again in the distance, the wind whipping through the square. But now it felt like a challenge, not a threat. The sound didn't discourage them. It fueled their fire. Laughter rolled with the thunder, blending into a symphony of determination. Then, just as the sun peeked through, illuminating the DIY kites, a loud crack echoed from above. Heads snapped upward. A fierce bolt of lightning struck nearby, sending a tremor through the crowd. Panic rippled, and Ginger instinctively took a step back. "Make sure everything is tied right. Grab hold," she instructed, her voice going calm with an unexpected authority. She could already feel the energy shift. The people around her began to adjust their kites, holding on to each strand for strength. Then, amidst the panic, the townsman who had questioned her spoke up. "Or we could let it all fall apart." Again, his tone was lower, yet behind it lay a flicker of uncertainty. And there it was again, the fork in the road. What would she say to him? Would she let the storm claim their unity, or would they defy it? The answers swirled around them, caught in the wind, like their kites. Ginger took a breath, meeting everyone's gaze as a fierce determination sparked within her. "We will fly, even in storms." The air grew tense with anticipation. Could they rise above the doubts, sealing their fate as one cohesive force? Kites fluttered in the breeze with their stories, begging to be launched. And just like that, she understood. It was the collective belief that would lift them higher. But could they truly hold on to each other when darkness threatened again? The next roll of thunder was louder, and Ginger felt it echo in her chest. The answers awaited on the winds. How far would they go to secure the dreams they dared to chase? In that moment, every heart beat a little faster, with a weight of possibility. The air crackled with energy, a tension thick enough to taste. Ginger focused on the children, their tiny hands gripping the kites they had stitched together. They were her beacon, a testament that even in a storm, there was fire and vitality. But the murmurs of doubt still danced around them like shadows, threatening to smother this newfound light. "Hold tight, let's get those kites ready," she called out, her voice cutting through the hesitation. Each fabric piece flew high in anticipation, colors blending like a sunset fighting against the encroaching night. She scanned the crowd, spotting Mrs. Wilkins, now rallying others with her. The elderly woman raised her arms as if urging them to rise against the storm, her resolve lighting a spark in people. "We've made it before, haven't we?" she shouted, her passion infectious. "Our strength is in each other." But then the younger man who had questioned earlier stepped forward again, his face etched with concern. "And what if our hope breaks again, just like before?" His question hung heavy in the air, almost like the ominous clouds above. Ginger turned to him, her heart pounding. She could see the fear behind his bravado, and it mirrored her own. "But what if it doesn't?" she countered, stepping closer, mindful of the shifting winds. "What if this time we recover not just as individuals, but as a family? We've done so many things alone. This kite is for all of us. Let it remind us we are never truly alone." Several people nodded, murmuring among themselves as the weight of her words sunk in. It was a moment of connection, everyone feeling the pulse of their community again, breathing life into a once dim hope. Suddenly, the wind howled, brushing against their cheeks, stinging yet invigorating. The storm was approaching, and she could see it now, the dark, swirling clouds on the horizon. But instead of fear, a burst of excitement flowed through her. "Let's not just wait for the storm. Let's fly our kites now." Ginger reached for her own kite, feeling the soft fabric beneath her fingers. With a whoop of joy, she sprinted forward, dragging the wind behind her. The townsfolk watched, hesitant at first, but inspired by her abandon. They followed her lead,
laughter trailing like a comet's tail as they ran. Kites began to lift above their heads, vibrant colors painting the gray sky. They danced with gusto, catching the strong gusts. "Look, they're rising!" a child shouted, her voice ringing out like a clarion call. Ginger beamed as she watched the first kite soar.
It was as if the fabric had taken on a life of its own, gliding with grace. One by one, more kites followed, a kaleidoscope strong against the gathering storm. "See what happens when we come together? Our fears are nothing in the face of love," Ginger shouted, her joy contagious. However, amidst the elation, a crack of lightning split the sky, startling everyone. The excitement faltered just for a moment, and Ginger, remembering the anger and doubt etched into the townsman's face, felt a rush of protectiveness. "Stay strong, we're not afraid," she howled into the wind, holding her kite taut, feeling the power surge beneath her palms. The thunder advanced with its deep rumble, a reminder of the turmoil lurking just around the corner. But within this chaos, Ginger felt a calm settling in her soul. They were standing as one, their kites on the verge of flight, and yet her heart thudded with urgency, sensing the swell of uncertainty. Would they hold their unity through the storm? Would fear prevail, or would courage take the reins? As the winds intensified, a thought crept in. Could this be the moment they found their true strength, or would everything they'd fought for come crashing down once again? The answer loomed like the storm above them, waiting to be revealed. Ginger felt the tension pull tight against her chest, like the strings of the kites taut against the wind. Each hurried beat of her heart synchronized with the fluttering fabric above. The storm clouds rolled closer, dark and menacing, yet the kites soared higher, defiant against the gathering gloom. For every ounce of uncertainty lurking in their minds, she felt the surge of hope rallying in this small corner of their world. The other townsfolk, emboldened by her spirit, began to shout and cheer, igniting a wave of energy that spread through the crowd like wildfire. One elderly man raised his arms, and a group of children followed him, their laughter piercing the heavy air. Every laugh felt like a victory, a triumph over the fears that had plagued them for too long. Yet, even amidst the joy, that young man loomed back in Ginger's thoughts, his words echoing with doubt. She could almost feel the weight of his concern pressing down on them like the approaching storm. What if their hopes did shatter like glass? What if the winds turned bitter, snapping the very threads that held them together? The first raindrops splattered down, gentle like whispers at first, but quickly morphed into a steady drizzle, drenching their faces. Ginger glanced up at the angry skies. "Keep flying," she yelled, challenging the rising fear. "Don't let the rain bring you down." A few hesitant kites dipped, pulled by the heavy weight of the droplets, but others brushed the clouds, reaching higher with each gust. The children screamed with delight, urging their kites to dance against the wind. Ginger moved among them, feeling the pulseful laughter unfurling around her. She could see Miss
Wilkins leading the charge, rallying more people to join in, despite the rain. "Look at those colors," she hollered, her voice a beacon amidst the storm. "Together we shine brighter." But just as hope surged, another crack of lightning illuminated the sky, and suddenly the wind howled like a wild beast. Panic flickered in the air. Kites began to falter, straining against the lashes of the storm. Ginger's heart sank. Would all their laughter be swept away? "Stay with me," she shouted, her voice anchoring them amidst the rising tumult. "Don't lose sight of what we've created." A small child nearby, soaked and shivering, clutched his kite with one hand and his mother's hand with the other, his big eyes wide with fear. She knelt down beside him, meeting his gaze. "Look at the kite, buddy. It's just like us. Even when the storm comes, it still wants to fly." He looked up, and for a heartbeat, Ginger saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes, a glimmer of resilience. The storm might rage, but so could they. As the rain turned into a relentless downpour, kites danced wildly, some twisting out of shape, but others finding their rhythm amidst chaos. The crowd was louder now, cheering each rise, each plummet. Their unity was palpable, like a spider's web, fragile yet strangely resilient, bound by hope and tenacity. Ginger recognized she was no longer merely leading. She was part of something deeply transformative. This wasn't just about flying kites. It was about soaring together, even when torrents poured down. Just then, she spotted the young man again, his face showing a flicker of hope mingled with uncertainty. Could he see it now? The collective strength woven between them, the brilliant patchwork they'd created despite the storm? In that moment, she knew. They weren't just fighting a storm, they were reshaping what it meant to face life's tempests. But as a gust nearly tore the kite from her hands, she realized the road ahead was treacherous. Would they find a way to hold on, or would the storm tear them apart? And deep within that uncertainty, a new thought dawned. Maybe the storm hid opportunities for greater connection. What awaited them on the other side? As the rain kept pouring, the real question loomed. Were they ready to embrace whatever came next? The rain pelted down harder, each droplet like a drumbeat, urging them forward. Ginger gripped her kite tightly, feeling its fabric sway with the growing wind. As the colors blurred together in a vibrant dance above, she could see the shimmer of determination reflecting back from the crowd. They were not giving in. "Lift those kites," Ginger called again, her voice rising above the howling wind. "Let the storm know we're here." The kites dipped and soared, weaving in and out of the dark clouds. The children's laughter rang louder, buoyed by adrenaline and excitement. But in a quiet corner, she noticed the young man again, his face drawn with worry.
She wanted to reach him, to show him what she saw, the joy woven into every thread, the hope flying high above the storm. With every flash of lightning, the crowd gasped, but then it erupted in cheers as kites rose boldly, defiant against the elements. Ginger felt a shift in the air. The storm wasn't just an obstacle, it was part of the dance, a challenge they could overcome together. She turned her focus back to the child, still shivering but whose eyes had taken on a fierce glint. "It's okay to feel scared," she said softly, "but that fear doesn't have to hold you down. Look at everyone around you. We're all in it together." The boy nodded, his grip on the kite tightening as he absorbed her words. The storm raged, and the wind became a wild symphony. Yet amidst it, the townsfolk grew more cohesive. Mrs. Wilkins raised her voice, rallying others. "Let's make our kites dance, together." "Together," the crowd echoed back, their voices strong against the thunder. Just then, the young man stepped forward, his hesitation giving way to resolve. He caught Ginger's gaze, a moment stretching between them like a lifeline. An understanding passed through the crowd, a recognition of shared fear and shared strength. The storm couldn't break them, it only fueled their determination. As one, they raised their kites high, an explosion of colors swirling against the dark backdrop of rain and lightning. Each kite became a symbol of resistance, a fluttering banner that said, "We are still here." With a surge of energy, the kids let go, their laughter filling the air like an anthem of defiance. It was infectious. Ginger's heart swelled. Beneath the chaos, they were building something new, an unbreakable bond forged in the fire of adversity. Yet in the churning clouds loomed an even greater challenge. The winds shifted suddenly, the gust threatening to pull everything into chaos. Kites were yanked perilously close to the ground. Ginger felt her own kite twist, nearly slipping from her grasp. She clenched her teeth, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. "Hold on," she shouted, her voice strong. "We can do this together." But just then, like a harbinger, the rain intensified again. A loud crack of thunder resonated, sending an electric jolt through the air. The crowd faltered for a split second, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Even her heart raced as the skies grew angrier. In that brief moment of doubt, everything could teeter into fear. Would they let it? Would the storm swell higher, drowning out all the joy and brightness they had fought to create? "Ginger, you have to rally them." Time felt suspended as she searched the crowd. "Look around," she cried, urgency lacing her words. "Each of us carries hope. Look at the sky. We will not let the storm win." The faces around her turned toward the dark clouds, eyes reflecting the battle within. But she could see the fire return, a spark ignited, a resolve solidifying. They would choose to rise.
But would they find the courage, or would fear snare them in its grip when the worst of the storm struck? Ginger's heart raced again. She couldn't shake the feeling that the darkest hour was yet to come. And as the howling winds began to shift, one thought surged forward. What awaited them on the horizon? The storm roared, and the sky darkened further, a stark contrast to the vibrant kites that danced defiantly above the crowd. Ginger felt a surge of energy race through her, lifting her spirits even as the wind threatened to tear the kites from their grips. She glanced back at the young man, whose anxious expression now bore a hint of resolve. In that moment of chaos, she recognized his struggle mirrored in all around her. "Keep fighting," she urged, her voice cutting through the storm. "This is our moment." With her arms raised, Ginger led the crowd in a rhythm, urging them to sync their movements with the wind. The kites, beautiful and bright, fluttered in unison, sending waves of color across the gray sky. Even as the rain soaked their clothes, the laughter and cheers transformed the dreary day into a celebration of spirit and resilience. A flash of lightning illuminated the faces surrounding her, wide eyes filled with determination, cheeks flush with excitement, laughter erupting like music through the cacophony of thunder. More than ever, she felt connected to them, a community intertwined by hope amid the storm. But a new gust howled, sharp and sudden, throwing them off balance. Ginger's heart pounded in her chest as she watched a little girl stumble backward, her kite slipping dangerously low. Without thinking, she dashed through the crowd, heart racing. "Grab it," Ginger shouted as she reached the child. Swatting the water from her eyes, the girl's grasp tightened around the string again, a flicker of gratitude shining through her fear. "See?" Ginger smiled, her voice reassuring. "You're not alone." The crowd rallied, each person now focused on another, standing tall against the storm as much as the kites above. "Look," someone shouted. A ripple of excitement surged through the town as the young man from the corner joined in with a determination that lit up his features. His kite soared higher, its colors vibrant even against the encroaching darkness. Ginger felt hope swell alongside it, their shared energy weaving a web of courage that enveloped them all. "Come on, we can do this," he shouted, gripping his kite string with renewed strength. As if in response, the skies rumbled loudly, the storm's roar echoing against their united cry. The rain continued relentlessly, yet within that deluge they all found shelter in one another's strength. But the winds were changing again, the energy swirling into a chaotic frenzy. Kites dipped and buckled, twisting around each other as an unexpected gust spun them in circles. Ginger felt her own kite begin to falter, caught in the turbulence. "Hold tight, everyone,"
she yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins as she focused on stabilizing her kite. "Don't let go!" The once festive atmosphere flickered, doubt creeping back into a few faces. Ginger saw it in the young man's eyes, a flicker of fear tempered by his earlier resolve. Did he worry they might not withstand the storm? A surge of longing to protect her community welled in her chest. "We can face anything together," she called, desperately clutching her kite. "Trust in what we've built, a bond as strong as the storm." Just as she finished speaking, the storm unleashed one final furious gust that sent the roar of wind spiraling through the crowd. For a heartbeat, everything hung in suspense. The kites, the faces, even the rain itself seemed to pause, pulsing with the shared heartbeat of anticipation. Then, as if by some miracle, the storm began to wane. The winds whispered instead of howled, and the rain softened, a gentle patter against their skin rather than a punishing force. But an ominous silence filled the air. What just changed? Ginger thought, her brows furrowing. As the last shreds of doubt loomed like shadows in the lightning sky, a new question arose. Was this a calm before a larger storm? A hush fell over the crowd, a stark contrast to the exuberance from just moments before. Ginger stood there, motionless, gripping her kite string tightly as apprehension filled the air. She felt a shift, like an emotional tide, and for a moment her heart sank. Could they still rise after the storm? The young man glanced at her, eyes wide with uncertainty. His kite wavered slightly, a reflection of the doubt swirling around them. Ginger took a deep breath, shaking off her own fears as she stepped a little closer. "We're not done yet," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We can't stop believing now." One by one, the crowd started to murmur affirmations, their voices rising slowly at first, then picking up in strength, echoing their resolve. "Keep holding on," someone called, and others joined, inspired by the familiar rhythm of their collective spirit. With newfound determination, they lifted their kites, banishing the unease that threatened to consume them. As if in response to their resilience, the clouds began to thin. Streaks of sunlight filtered through, illuminating the vibrant colors of their kites dancing against the backdrop of a now brightening sky. Ginger could feel the warmth on her skin, and it trickled into her heart, igniting hope. "Look at that, Ginger," the young man exclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. His kite caught a strong gust, soaring higher and higher, defying the lingering storm clouds. Ginger couldn't help but smile as she watched him. "Just like you," she shouted over the diminishing wind, laughter spilling free as her heart lightened. And with that, a subtle wave traveled across the town. People began to cheer, their spirits soaring even higher than the kites above.
The storm had tried to drag them down, but they weren't ready to sink. Hope glimmered in their eyes, and laughter became their anthem. But just as they seemed to reclaim control, another gust rushed in unexpectedly, knocking several kites dangerously close to one another. Ginger's smile faltered. The kites twisted and tangled, colors colliding, bodies reacting with panic. "Stay steady," she cried, urging everyone to focus. The young man caught her eye again, and she saw something had shifted in him. The fear was gone, replaced now by pure determination. He was no longer just a spectator. Ginger could feel it. He was with her, ready to fight alongside. "Let's untangle them," he shouted, pointing at the nearest cluster of kites. Banishing her doubts, Ginger nodded fervently, a spark of inspiration igniting within her. They sprinted through the crowd together, their voices mingling as they rallied their neighbors, creating a whirlwind of coordination and teamwork. "Shift to the left," she called. "Now the right." Like a well-rehearsed dance, they moved as one, untangling the mess. The energy was electric, laughter echoing through the air. They weren't just flying kites anymore. They were overcoming obstacles together, a community fighting against the chaos. When they finally break free, the crowd erupted in cheers. The kites shot back into the sky with renewed vigor, reclaiming their rightful place above the town, vibrant against the clearing sky. But as the last vestiges of the storm dissolved into the horizon, Ginger couldn't shake the feeling lurking in her chest. Maybe this had been the calm before the real test. "Is this our turning point?" she pondered quietly, glancing at the young man, whose spirit now matched the brightening sky. As he met her gaze, his expression shifted. What comes next? That question hung in the air, an invitation for something greater on the horizon. Would they soar higher, or would a new challenge descend upon them? The answer hovered, almost tangible, waiting to be unveiled. The sun broke through the last remnants of the clouds, washing the park in golden light. Ginger stood beside the young man, her heart still racing from their recent victory against the storm. There was something electric in the air, a feeling that this day held more than just kites and laughter. "Look around," he said, gesturing to the crowd. Everyone seemed so alive. His voice was steady now, confident even. Ginger nodded, taking in the energy that buzzed like a live wire. Neighbors hugged, friends cheered, and children raced after their kites as if they were alive. It was a scene that filled her heart with warmth. But inside, a storm still brewed, questions on in her mind. What if this is just the beginning, though? She mused, her voice barely a whisper. What if something else comes for us? He turned to her, brow furrowing slightly. "We can deal with it together," he replied, his words a comfort.
But just beneath, she sensed an unspoken fear creeping into their exchange. What if their efforts today weren't enough for tomorrow? Ginger watched as one of the little girls twirled in delight, her kite soaring effortlessly like a bird in the wind. If only she could feel that carefree spirit. But doubt nibbled at the edges of her joy. She bent down and grabbed her own kite string, feeling the familiar texture between her fingers, a reminder of hope. "Want to go higher?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with adventure. "Absolutely," she responded, the excitement spilling back into her veins. "But we should do it as a team." Together, they rushed towards the center of the park, rallying others with infectious enthusiasm. "Let's raise them all together. At the count of 3, Ginger shouted, feeling the crowd swell around her. The young man counted, his voice powerful and sharp like the wind that gathered at their backs. 1, 2, 3. All at once, dozens of hands released their strings. The kites flew upward, colors splashing against the cerulean sky, merging together like a dazzling mosaic. The cheers erupted again, louder this time, with more conviction. Watching the kites rise higher, Ginger felt a spark of joy mixed with apprehension. All this energy, all this unity, could it withstand the inevitable storms? "Ginger!" The young man grabbed her attention, his gaze intense. "Look at them! This is amazing!" Her heart soared with his excitement. "I know, it's beautiful." But still, the gnawing question remained in the back of her mind. Would this be enough? Suddenly, a whistle pierced the air. Several heads turned as an older gentleman waved his arms, trying to get the crowd's attention. "Listen up, everyone. We need volunteers for the next event." The realization struck Ginger like a lightning bolt. What came next could redefine their strength as a community. She glanced at the young man. What if we put together a kite festival? It could bring everyone together. His eyes widened, then sparkled with eagerness. "That's brilliant! We could invite other towns. We could lead them." Ginger took a deep breath, her heart racing at the prospect. But buried beneath her excitement was a fear she couldn't dismiss. But what if they don't come? As they stared at the crowd buzzing with energy, she realized the answer wasn't clear. This potential festival was both thrilling and daunting. Would they band together, or would the fear of failure hold them back?
Ginger, he said softly, searching her eyes. If we believe in this, they will too. We can't let our fears stop us from dreaming big. In that moment, the air thickened with anticipation. The overwhelming possibilities collided with her doubts, and she felt the weight of what was to come. Okay, let's do it, she whispered, a determined fire igniting within her. Let's make this happen. As they turned towards the sea of hopeful faces, a rush of courage surged through her. The foundation for something monumental was building before their eyes. But just as hope ignited the crowd, a shadow flickered in the distance. An unfamiliar figure stood at the edge of the park, watching them with a penetrating gaze. Who is that? Ginger asked, her heart sinking. Deep breaths. The festival was just the beginning. But what if they faced a challenge they never saw coming? The air grew heavy with questions, and the promise of the unknown loomed ahead. The festival day had finally arrived, vibrant and full of life, just as Ginger had envisioned. The sun poured down like liquid gold onto the open fields of the park, transforming the once gray skies into a spectacle of brightness. Kites of every shape and size danced in the wind, casting colorful shadows on the ground below. The town hummed with laughter and anticipation, every booth filled with the delicious scent of homemade treats and the cheerful chatter of neighbors rekindling friendships. Yet, even amidst the celebration, Ginger couldn't shake the sense of exhilaration mixed with anxiety. Planning this festival hadn't come without its challenges. Each detail was a thread that tugged at her heart, intertwining with the fabric of her dreams for the town's future. As the buzz of excitement swelled, she stole a glance at the sky, anxiously wondering if any storm clouds lingered in the distance. Then she saw him. The familiar figure stood at the edge of the park. It was the young man who had challenged her during the kite-making session. He watched, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. What was he thinking? Did he still harbor doubts? But just as she took a step toward him, the sound of laughter broke her focus. "Ginger, come join us," a little voice chimed from behind. It was the same girl who had first approached her at the community craft event, a beaming smile lighting up her face. Ginger felt warmth flood her heart. Here stood the epitome of hope, innocent and unwavering. "All right, let's fly," Ginger cheered, injecting her voice into the air, those words spiraling upwards. The girl grabbed her hand, and together they raced towards an open space under the bluest sky. Ginger could feel the community thrumming around her. Old tensions faded, replaced by connection, laughter, joy, the very essence of the kite festival. As the kite soared, something magical happened. Neighbors started engaging, challenging each other to see whose kite could fly the highest or perform the most daring stunts. The festival was no longer just about kites. It was about rekindling unity, building bridges, and soaring beyond past grievances. Childish laughter rang out, intertwining with the wind, a harmony that drowned out doubt. But just as the excitement reached its peak, the younger man stepped forward, breaking through the crowd. Ginger felt a pang of apprehension. Would he bring the tone down with skepticism again? Instead, his voice rang clear. "Ginger, this is amazing."
"Look at what we've built," he gestured broadly to encompass the gathering. Ginger's heart swelled at his sentiment. "It's not just me, it's everyone here. We created this together," she called, her spirit buoyed by his change of heart. And as she scanned the crowd, she caught glimpses of others, accepting, smiling, transforming, letting the day unfold into a tapestry of shared stories. But then, a crack of thunder. It jolted everyone back, glancing nervously towards the horizon. A chill ran down Ginger's spine. She had feared this moment would come. Undeterred, she refused to let it dampen the festival spirit. "Every storm is just another chance to showcase our resolve," she declared, her confidence ringing through the air like bells. "If we can weather one storm together, we can face whatever comes next." Cheering erupted around her as everyone rallied, and suddenly the storm clouds seemed far more distant than they had moments ago. No rain would fall that day, not on their triumph. In the midst of the festivities, Ginger's joy flared brighter, warming the hearts of those around her. As children tugged at their kite strings with wide, gleeful eyes, and adults laughed in celebration, she knew deep down that the festival was merely the start of something far greater. They had left the past behind, transformed shadows into kites, and it was just the beginning of their journey together.
As the evening approached, with the sun setting in a breathtaking display of oranges and pinks, Ginger took a deep breath, allowing herself to bask in the moment. She turned to the young man beside her, who stood proudly near the vibrant chaos. "Let's carry this spirit forward," she said, determination shining in her eyes. "Who knows what we might accomplish together next?" That echoed through the crowd, igniting further enthusiasm. Clouds of doubt had evaporated, and together they would rise, just like the kites high above them. Every heart echoed with renewed purpose, of love, resilience, and unbreakable bonds. The essence of community was alive, soaring amidst the skies. And as the festival wound down, sharing stories under the stars, one thing was endlessly clear. The kites weren't just threads based in fabric. They were symbols of transformation, woven together with the strongest ties those in the town could ever create. The stage was set for tomorrow, the adventure, now endless. You need to subscribe now to follow the next chapter of this journey. This is the moment to show your support for uplifting stories that inspire and transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this storytelling reach more hearts. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the festival and transformation of the community. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. Spread the love and witness the power of unity.